The paint fumes made my eyes water, but I kept rolling that sage green across the back wall anyway. It was 3 a.m, and my mom was passed out on the makeshift bed we'd dragged into what would become her office. She'd been going non-stop for 16 hours straight, and honestly, I was proud of her for finally taking a break. My name is Cora, and at 26, I thought I'd finally found my purpose. Not in some corporate cubicle or chasing someone else's dream, but right here in this dusty storefront that smelled like sawdust and possibility. Cora, honey, you don't have to stay up all night, Mum had mumbled around midnight, but her eyes were already drooping. Someone has to finish this wall, I said, squeezing her shoulder. Besides, we open in 2 weeks. Sleep. I've got this. That's how it had been for 3 months. Me picking up the slack, me staying late, me using my savings to cover the deposits she couldn't quite manage. But I didn't mind. For the first time in my life, my mother actually needed me for something real. The vintage thrift shop had been her idea, obviously. Mum always had ideas. When I was 12, she wanted to start a catering business. At 15, it was handmade jewellery. At 20, she was convinced we should flip houses together, but this felt different. She'd found the perfect location, negotiated with the landlord, even had a business plan sketched out on napkins. This is it, Cora, she'd said that first day, keys jangling in her hand as she unlocked the empty space. This is going to be our legacy, yours and mine. Our legacy. Those words had hit me right in the chest. I dipped the roller again and stretched to reach the corner. The green was perfect, not too bright, not too muted. Mum had great taste, I'd give her that. She'd picked out everything from the paint colours to the vintage brass fixtures we'd installed last week. You have such good instincts, she'd told me while I was on my hands and knees, screwing in the baseboards. I don't know what I'd do without you. The front door chimed. We'd finally gotten the bell working yesterday, and I turned to see Mom shuffling in with 2 cups of coffee from the 24-hour diner down the street. Couldn't sleep, she said, handing me a cup. Kept thinking about the window display. It's 4 a.m, Mom. I know, but look at this place. She gestured around the space with her free hand. Look what we built! And she was right. The transformation was incredible. What had been a grimy, abandoned storefront 3 months ago now looked like something out of a magazine. Exposed brick walls, carefully curated vintage furniture arranged in cosy vignettes, and racks of clothing organised by colour and era. We'd even built a little reading nook in the corner with a velvet armchair and a stack of old books. The permit came through yesterday, Mum said, settling into the chair we'd designated for the register area. We're officially official. Really? That's amazing. Cora, I need you to know something. Her voice got serious, the way it did when she was about to say something important. This isn't just my dream anymore. It's ours. One day, all of this will be yours. I nearly dropped my coffee. Mum! I mean it. You've put your heart into this place. You quit your job, spent your savings, worked yourself to the bone. This is as much yours as it is mine. She stood up and walked over to me, paint splattered and exhausted as I was. Partners. Equal partners. Are you sure? Honey, look around. You think I could have done any of this without you? She laughed, but it was warm, not mocking. You're the one with the vision. I'm just the dreamer. I hugged her then, right there in the middle of our beautiful, almost finished store. The paint was still wet on the walls, and everything smelled like hope and hard work and the future we were building together. We should probably get some paperwork drawn up, I said when we broke apart. You know, make it official. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Cora, please, we're family. Family doesn't need contracts and lawyers and all that nonsense. We have something better than paperwork. We have trust. I nodded, feeling silly for even bringing it up. She was right. This was bigger than business documents. We worked until sunrise, putting the finishing touches on the back wall, arranging the jewellery display case, testing the vintage record player we'd found at an estate sale. By the time we locked up, the place looked ready for customers. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Finally, I was part of something that mattered. It wasn't until I got home and checked my phone that I saw the voicemail notification. Unknown number, left at 2:47 a.m. while I was painting. This message is for Cynthia Dawson regarding your business account application. Please call us back to discuss the next steps in processing your loan. I played it again. Business account. Loan. What loan? I stood outside the store at 7 a.m. sharp, keys in hand, ready to tackle the final prep work before our soft opening next week. The morning sun hit the windows just right, making the vintage mannequins look like they were posing for a photo shoot. Except my key wouldn't turn. I jiggled it, thinking maybe the lock was sticking. Nothing. I tried again, pushing harder. The key slid in but wouldn't rotate even a millimetre. What the hell? I walked around to the back entrance. Same thing. The key that had worked perfectly yesterday was now completely useless. My phone buzzed. Mum. Hey honey, running a bit late this morning. Go ahead and start without me. Mum, the locks aren't working. Did you change them? A pause. Too long of a pause. Oh right, yes, I had them changed yesterday evening. Security upgrade. Okay, where are the new keys? Another pause. Actually, Cora, I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at the diner? Something cold settled in my stomach. Why can't we talk at the store? Just meet me at the diner. 20 minutes. She hung up. I sat in my car for 15 minutes staring at the storefront we'd built together, trying to make sense of what was happening. Finally, I drove to the diner, that voicemail about the business loan playing on repeat in my head. Mum was already there, sitting in a corner booth, stirring her coffee like she was trying to dissolve the spoon. There's my girl, she said, but her smile looked painted on. I slid into the booth across from her. What's going on with the locks? Kira, honey, you know I appreciate everything you've done for the store. Appreciate? Mum, we built that place together. You said we were partners. I know, and we were, but things have gotten complicated. What kind of complicated? She wouldn't meet my eyes. The business has to be streamlined. I've brought in some help. Help with what? We were doing fine on our own. Camilla is going to be managing the day-to-day operations. I blinked. Camilla? Your niece Camilla? The one who's never worked retail a day in her life? She has a business degree. She has a business degree she's never used. Mum, what is this really about? The diner door chimed, and speak of the devil, in walked Camilla. Designer jeans, perfect blowout, carrying a Starbucks cup like it was a trophy. She spotted us and sauntered over. Morning, Aunt Cynthia. Cora. She slid into the booth next to my mother, all smiles and confidence. Camilla was just telling me about some exciting ideas she has for the store, Mum said. Oh, tons of ideas, Camilla chirped. Social media campaigns, influencer partnerships, maybe even a website with online ordering. I stared at her. Those were my ideas. I pitched those to you last month, Mum. Well, great minds think alike, Camilla said with a little laugh. Cora, the thing is, Mum continued, I need someone who can be there full time. Someone who can really commit. I quit my job for this store. I spent my entire savings. How much more committed could I be? But you were always talking about maybe going back to school or travelling or... I never said any of that, so Mum's voice got sharper. Don't raise your voice at me. I'm not raising my voice. I'm asking you to explain why my cousin is suddenly running the business we built together. The business I built, Mum corrected. With your help, yes, but it's my business. The words hit like a slap. That's not what you said 3 months ago, or last week, or literally 2 days ago when you told me it would all be mine someday. I was being encouraging, motivational. You were lying. Cora! Mum's voice went cold. I think you're being dramatic. You helped out, and I'm grateful, but let's not pretend this was ever anything more than that. I looked at Camilla, who was examining her manicured nails like this conversation was boring her. Did you know? I asked her. When you agreed to take over, did you know I thought I was a partner? Camilla shrugged. Aunt Cynthia told me you'd been helping out, but that she needed someone more professional. Professional. Someone who understands business. I laughed, but it came out harsh. I understand business just fine. I understand that partners usually get contracts. I understand that partners usually get keys to their own store. It's not your store, Mum said quietly. Right, I forgot. Family doesn't need contracts, remember? Family just needs trust. I stood up, my hands shaking slightly. You know what's funny? I actually believed you. I thought we were building something together. Cora, sit down. You're making a scene. No, I'm leaving. Enjoy your streamlined business. I was halfway to the door when Mum called after me. Cora, honey, don't be like this. You can still visit the store anytime. Maybe help out during busy seasons. I turned around. The entire diner was staring now, but I didn't care. Visit? Help out during busy seasons? I walked back to their table. Mum, I painted those walls. I installed those fixtures. I chose that inventory. I designed that window display. And now you want me to visit? You're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable. I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memos. Want to hear what you said about this being our legacy? Our partnership? Want me to play back all those promises? Mum's face went pale. You recorded me. I recorded everything. Every conversation, every promise, every time you told me this was as much mine as yours. Camilla looked uncomfortable for the first time since she'd sat down. Those were private conversations, Mum said. Between partners, I said. Remember? I spent the next week doing something I'd never done before, keeping meticulous records of everything. Every receipt I'd saved from our store purchases, every bank statement showing my withdrawals, every photo I'd taken during construction, every voice memo I'd recorded of Mom's promises. The pile of evidence grew daily. You're obsessing, my friend Jake said, when I showed him the spreadsheet I created. Maybe just let it go? Let it go? Jake, she stole 3 months of my life and $8,000 of my money. But she's your mom. Exactly. She's my mom, and she screwed me over. I'd been staying at Jake's place since the diner confrontation, sleeping on his couch and plotting my next move. Because there was going to be a next move. I just needed to figure out what it was. The answer came when I was walking past the store, my store, and saw Charlotte, the landlord, posting a "For Lease" sign in the window of the space next door. I knocked on the glass. She looked up, recognised me, and opened the door. Cora, right? How's the store coming along? Actually, that's complicated. Are you seriously leasing the space next door? Just went on the market yesterday. Same square footage as your mum's place, but it needs work. She studied my face. Why? You interested? Maybe. Can I see it? Charlotte unlocked the door to reveal a space that was basically identical to Mum's store, just mirrored. Same exposed brick, same high ceilings, same potential. Rent's the same as next door, Charlotte said. First month, last month, security deposit. I walked around the empty space, my mind racing. What if I wanted to call it something similar to the existing store? Like Cadby complimentary branding? Charlotte raised an eyebrow. As long as it's not trademark infringement, I don't care what you call it. And how quickly could I move in? Soon as the paperwork's done and the check clears. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The number was smaller than it used to be, but still enough. I'll take it. Just like that. Just like that. We shook hands right there in the empty storefront. Can I ask you something? Charlotte said as she pulled out the lease agreement. What happened with you and your mum? I thought you two were partners. So did I. Charlotte made a note on her clipboard. You know, you're not the first person she's burned. What do you mean? Nothing specific. Just, your mum has a reputation around here. People talk. I signed the lease that afternoon and immediately started making calls. First, to a contractor I'd worked with at my old job. Then to a business loan officer at the credit union. Finally to Cameron, an investor I'd met at a networking event months ago. Cora! Good to hear from you. How's the thrift store going? That's actually why I'm calling. I'm starting my own store now, and I remember you mentioning you were interested in supporting local retail ventures. Your own store? What happened to the family business? Family business didn't work out, but I learned a lot, and I have a solid plan. I'm listening. I pitched him everything. The location, the concept, the market research I'd done while helping Mum. By the end of the call, he'd agreed to meet in person. One question, Cameron said. This new store is not going to compete directly with your mother's place, is it? It's going to complement it, I said. Different target demographic, which was technically true. Mum was targeting customers who wanted cheap vintage finds. I was targeting customers who wanted quality vintage finds and were willing to pay for them. Cameron and I met at a coffee shop the next morning. I brought my laptop, my business plan, and a folder full of photos from the original store construction. This is impressive work, he said, flipping through the photos. You did all this yourself? Most of it. I have a good eye for design and I'm not afraid of manual labour. And your timeline? 6 weeks to opening. I know it sounds aggressive, but I already have supplier relationships. I understand the local market, and I've done this before. Cameron closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. Cora, I'm going to be direct with you. This feels like a revenge play. It's a business opportunity. Those aren't mutually exclusive. I met his eyes. My mother taught me that family doesn't need contracts. She taught me that trust is more valuable than paperwork. She taught me that promises between family members are sacred. I paused. She also taught me that none of that is true. Cameron laughed. Fair enough. What do you need from me? 15,000 for inventory and marketing. I'll pay it back within 6 months plus interest. And if your mother tries to interfere? She can try. We shook hands over coffee and signed the investment agreement right there. Walking back to my car, I called Charlotte. It's Cora. I need to ask you something about Mom's lease. What about it? Is her business license current? A pause. Why would you ask that? Just curious about the paperwork requirements. Cora, I can't discuss another tenant's private information. I understand. But hypothetically, if someone's business license had violations, would that affect their lease? Another pause. Hypothetically, yes. Major violations could trigger lease termination clauses. Good to know. Cora. Yeah? You didn't hear this from me, but you might want to check the city's public records database. Business licenses are public information. I spent that evening on the city website, searching through business registration records. What I found made me smile for the first time in weeks. Mom's business license had 3 outstanding violations: zoning compliance, sales tax registration, and occupancy permits. All fixable problems, if you knew about them. All grounds for lease termination, if you didn't. My phone buzzed at 11 p.m. while I was reviewing contractor estimates. Unknown number. Hello? Cora? It's Eloise, my little sister. I hadn't heard from her since the diner incident. Hey, El, what's up? Can we meet somewhere? I need to talk to you. It's pretty late. Is everything okay? No, nothing's okay. Can you pick me up? I'm at the library on 5th Street. 20 minutes later, I found Eloise sitting on the library steps, looking smaller than her 19 years. She climbed into my car without a word. Where do you want to go? Anywhere but home. I drove to the 24-hour diner where this whole mess had started. We grabbed a corner booth, and Eloise ordered coffee with shaking hands. Mom's been acting weird since your fight, she said. Weird how? Paranoid. Angry. She keeps asking if I've talked to you, if I know what you're planning. Eloise wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. Cora, I heard something. Before the whole thing went down. What did you hear? I was upstairs doing homework, and Mum was on the phone with Camilla. This was like 2 weeks before she locked you out. My stomach tightened. What did they say? Mum was telling Camilla about the store, about bringing her in to manage it, and Camilla asked what she was going to do about you. And? Mum said you were getting too attached, that you thought you were some kind of partner. She said she needed to cut you loose before you got any more ideas. The words hit like ice water. She planned it, the whole thing. There's more! Eloise's voice got quieter. Camilla asked if you'd caused problems, and Mum laughed. She said you were too trusting, too desperate for her approval to fight back. I gripped my coffee mug so hard I thought it might crack. I should have warned you, Eloise continued. But I thought maybe I misunderstood, or maybe she'd changed her mind, or... Elle, it's not your fault. Yes, it is. I knew she was planning to screw you over, and I said nothing. You were protecting yourself. I get it. Eloise started crying then, quiet tears that she wiped away with her sleeve. There's something else. About Aunt Elizabeth. Who's Aunt Elizabeth? Mum's sister. She died when I was little, but I found some old papers in Mum's room. They had a bakery together in the 90s. I've never heard Mum mention a bakery. Because she stole it. Same thing she did to you. Elizabeth put up the money, did all the work, and Mum pushed her out right before it became profitable. I stared at my sister. How do you know all this? The papers, legal documents, letters from Elizabeth begging Mum to honour their agreement. Elizabeth lost everything, her savings, her credit, her relationship with the family. What happened to her? She moved across the country, cut off all contact, died in a car accident 5 years later. Eloise pulled a folded envelope from her jacket. I brought copies. I opened the envelope and found photocopies of handwritten letters, legal documents, and what looked like a partnership agreement. Elizabeth's handwriting was desperate in the later letters. Cynthia, please reconsider. We built this together. You promised we were equal partners. The words could have been mine. There's a pattern, Eloise said. Mum finds someone to do the hard work, makes them feel special and included, then cuts them out when it's profitable. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't watch her do it again, and because Camilla threatened me. She what? Yesterday, she cornered me after my shift at the bookstore, said if I talked to you about anything related to the store, she'd make sure I lost my job. That's insane. She said Mum told her I might try to help you cause trouble. She said they'd both deny everything if I tried to repeat what I heard. I looked at my little sister, really looked at her. Dark circles under her eyes, tension in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing toward the door like she expected someone to walk in. Elle, are you safe at home? I think so. But Mom keeps asking weird questions about you. Where you're staying, what you're doing for money, if you've talked to any lawyers. What do you tell her? That I don't know anything, which was true until tonight. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I'm going to fix this. How? I'm opening my own store, right next door to hers. Eloise's eyes widened. Cora, that's crazy, probably. But she taught me everything I know about running a business. Time to put those lessons to use. She's going to lose her mind. Good. Eloise was quiet for a moment, then reached into her jacket again. There's one more thing. The original business registration for Mum's store. She handed me another envelope. I found this in her desk. Look at the date. I opened it and found the LLC registration paperwork. Filed 6 months before Mum had even mentioned the store idea to me. 6 months before she'd asked for my help. She was planning this from the beginning, I said. The whole thing was a setup. She needed free labour to get the store ready, and she knew you'd work harder if you thought you were building something for yourself. I folded the papers carefully and put them in my purse. Eloise, I need you to do something for me. What? Keep pretending you don't know anything. Don't let them know we talked. What are you going to do with those papers? Exactly what Mom taught me to do. I'm going to use every advantage I have. Kira, be careful. If she did this to her own sister, she's not going to do it to me. Not again. We sat in silence for a few minutes, both of us processing everything that had been said. Do you think she ever really loved us? Eloise asked quietly. I think she loves the idea of us. The version of us that makes her feel good about herself. That's not the same thing. No, I said. It's not. 6 weeks later, I stood in front of my completed store at 5 a.m., holding a cup of coffee and admiring the hand-painted sign, Vintage Revival, curated finds for the modern soul. Right next door, Mum's store still had the generic Thrift and More banner she'd hastily put up after I left. My contractor, Mike, pulled up in his truck. Ready for the big day? More than ready. We'd worked miracles in 6 weeks. Exposed brick painted white instead of sage green. Edison bulb fixtures casting warm light over carefully arranged vintage furniture. A story wall where customers could pin notes about items they'd purchased. And my pride and joy, a listening station with vintage records and headphones. Your mum's going to flip when she sees this, Mike said, carrying in the final delivery of inventory. That's the idea. At 8 a.m. sharp, I flipped the open sign I'd deliberately chosen to open the day before Mom's planned grand reopening celebration, the event she'd been promoting all over social media with Camilla's help. The first customer was Mrs. Peterson from down the street. Oh my goodness, is this an expansion of Cynthia's store? No, Mom, this is Vintage Revival. We're independently owned. How wonderful! I love what you've done with the space. By 10 a.m, I had a steady stream of customers. Many of them assumed I was connected to Mum's store, but once they saw the quality difference, they understood. My inventory was curated, not just cheap. My displays told stories, not just showed prices. Cameron stopped by around noon, grinning as he watched customers browse. This is incredible, Cora. The foot traffic is way higher than I expected. People are curious, and they like what they see. Your mother's noticed, I assume. I glanced toward the window. Mum had been peeking through her blinds every few minutes since I'd opened. Oh, she's noticed. At 12:30, she finally made her move. The door chimed, and in walked Mum, followed by Camilla. Both of them looked like they'd dressed for battle. Cora. Mum's voice was ice cold. What is this? This is my store, Vintage Revival. Your store, right next to mine. It's a free market, Mum. Competition is healthy. Camilla stepped forward, her phone already out and recording. This is harassment. You're deliberately trying to sabotage our business. I'm running my own business. If that feels like sabotage, maybe you should examine why. A customer near the record player looked up, clearly uncomfortable with the tension. Could we take this outside? I suggested. No, Mom said loudly. I want everyone to hear this. My daughter is trying to destroy the store we built together. The store you built, I corrected. Remember? You made that very clear. Don't be smart with me. I'm being accurate with you. An older gentleman browsing the furniture section cleared his throat. Excuse me, but is there a problem here? No problem at all, I said with a smile. Just a family discussion. Can I help you find anything specific? Actually, I was wondering about this writing desk. Do you know its history? I launched into the story of the 1940s secretary desk, how I'd found it at an estate sale, the original owner's love letters still tucked in one of the drawers. The customer was fascinated, and other shoppers gathered around to listen. Mum and Camilla stood there, clearly not knowing how to interrupt without looking worse. The door chimed again, and in walked a man in a city inspector's jacket, clipboard in hand. I'm looking for Cynthia Dawson, owner of Thrift & More. Mum's face went pale. That's me. Eugene Lawson, City Planning Office. I need to discuss some compliance issues with your business license. Compliance issues? Multiple violations have been reported. Zoning, occupancy permits, sales tax registration. I need to inspect your premises immediately. Mum looked at me, then at the inspector, then back at me. This is about the anonymous complaint, isn't it? Mum, I can't discuss the source of complaints, but these violations are serious. If they're not addressed within 48 hours, we'll have to issue a cease and desist order. 48 hours? That's impossible. The violations have been outstanding for months. You've had plenty of time to address them. Camilla grabbed Mum's arm. Aunt Cynthia, we should go deal with this. This isn't over, Mum hissed at me. No, I agreed. It's not. After they left with the inspector, the atmosphere in my store completely changed. Customers who had been tense during the confrontation now seemed energized, like they'd witnessed something important. Good for you, honey, said an elderly woman, examining vintage jewellery. I've been watching that woman operate for years. About time someone stood up to her. You know my mother? Know her? She tried to cheat my grandson out of his inheritance when she bought furniture from his grandmother's estate. Paid half what she promised, then claimed there was never a written agreement. Other customers started sharing their own stories. Mum had a reputation I'd never known about. Small betrayals, broken promises, people who'd learned not to trust her word. She's got a pattern, said a man looking at vintage tools. Finds people who need money, makes them feel special, then screws them over. By closing time, I'd sold more inventory than I'd projected for my entire first week. But more importantly, I'd learned something crucial about my mother's business practices. Charlotte stopped by as I was locking up. How was the first day? Educational. I saw the inspector go next door. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. Cora, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your mother called me this afternoon. She wanted to know if there was any way to break your lease. What did you tell her? I told her that her daughter had signed a legally binding contract, and unlike some people, I honour my agreements. Charlotte handed me an envelope. This came for you. Looks official. Inside was a letter from the City Planning Office, confirming that my business licence was fully compliant and wishing me success with my new venture. I looked through my window at Mom's store, where the lights were still on, and I could see her and Camilla frantically going through paperwork. She taught me everything she knew, I said to myself. I just learned the rest. 2 weeks after the inspector's visit, Mum's store was hemorrhaging customers. Word had spread about the violations, and people were choosing my place over hers. I could see her through the window some days, sitting behind the register with no customers for hours. Then Eloise called. Cora, you need to come to dinner at Cousin Juliana's tonight. Mom's planning something. What kind of something? I don't know, but she's been making calls all week. She told everyone in the family that you're trying to destroy her life. I'm working, Elle. I can't just... Please. She's been drinking more. And when she drinks, she says things. Bad things. About you, about the store, about what she's going to do to fix this. I closed the store early and drove to Juliana's house. The whole extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. The dining room felt like a tribunal. Mum sat at the head of the table, looking haggard but defiant. Camilla was next to her, scrolling through her phone like she was bored. There she is, Mum announced as I walked in. The daughter who's trying to destroy her own mother. Hello to you too, Mum. Juliana, ever the peacemaker, gestured to an empty chair. Cora, sit! Let's talk about this like family. There's nothing to talk about, Uncle Robert said. Cora opened a competing business right next to her mother's store. That's just vindictive. It's business, I said, taking the seat across from Mum, something Mum taught me about. Don't you dare blame me for your vindictive behaviour, Mum snapped. Vindictive? I'm running a legitimate business. You're trying to humiliate me. The room went quiet. Mum's voice had gotten shrill, desperate. Cynthia, Aunt Marie said gently, maybe if you explained what happened. What happened is that I gave my daughter everything, and she repaid me by trying to steal my customers and ruin my reputation. I laughed. Actually laughed. You gave me everything? Mum, you kicked me out of the store I helped build and told me I was never a partner. That's not how it happened. Really? Because I have recordings. The room went dead silent. Mum's face turned white. You recorded private family conversations? Uncle Robert looked disgusted. I recorded business discussions with someone who claimed to be my business partner. Those were private. Between partners, I interrupted, which is what you told me we were. I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings. Mum's voice filled the room. This isn't just my dream anymore, Cora. It's ours. One day, all of this will be yours. Partners. Equal partners. When it ended, nobody spoke. Play another one, Eloise said quietly. I played the recording from our last real conversation at the store. Family doesn't need contracts and lawyers and all that nonsense. We have something better than paperwork. We have trust. Mum stood up so fast her chair fell backward. Stop it! Why? Embarrassed by your own words? You manipulated those recordings. I manipulated them? Mum, these are your exact words. Camilla finally looked up from her phone. Aunt Cynthia, maybe we should just leave. No! Mum slammed her hand on the table. I'm not leaving until everyone understands what she's doing to me. What am I doing to you? You're destroying my business, my reputation, everything I worked for. Everything we worked for, remember? Partners. I never promised you anything legally binding. Right. Because family doesn't need contracts. Juliana tried to intervene. Maybe you two should discuss this privately. No, I said, standing up. Let's discuss it right here, in front of everyone. I looked around the table. How many of you know about Aunt Elizabeth? Mum's face went ashen. Don't you dare. Elizabeth, Mum's sister, the one who had a bakery with her in the 90s. Cora, stop! The one Mum pushed out of their partnership right before it became profitable. That's ancient history, is it? Because it sounds exactly like what happened to me. Uncle Robert frowned. What are you talking about? Elizabeth moved to California for work. Elizabeth moved to California because Mom stole her business, I said. Same pattern. Elizabeth did the work, Mom made the promises, then Mom cut her out when it was time to profit. That's a lie! Mom screamed. I pulled out the photocopied letters Eloise had given me. These are Elizabeth's letters, begging you to honour your partnership agreement. I read one aloud. Cynthia, please reconsider. We built this together. You promised we were equal partners. The silence in the room was deafening. Where did you get those? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Does it matter? The point is, you've done this before. Elizabeth was different. She was what? Trusting? Desperate for your approval? Too naive to get everything in writing? Mum started crying then, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry, frustrated tears of someone who'd been caught. You don't understand the pressure I was under, she sobbed. The bills, the stress, the responsibility. So you decided to steal from your sister, and then from your daughter. I never stole anything. Really? Because I found something else interesting. I pulled out another document. This is a loan application you filed 2 years ago using my social security number. The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once, but I kept going. You took out a $15,000 loan in my name to fund the store, without telling me, without my permission. Mom's crying stopped abruptly. How did you... The bank called me when you missed a payment. Funny thing about identity theft, it leaves a paper trail. Camilla stood up. I think I should go. Sit down, Camilla. You're part of this too. I didn't know about any loan, but you knew she was planning to cut me out. Eloise heard you two discussing it weeks before it happened. All eyes turned to Eloise, who nodded miserably. You all planned this, I continued. The fake partnership, the promises, the betrayal. You used me for free labour, then discarded me when you didn't need me anymore. That's not, Camilla started. And now you're surprised that I'm competing with you? You taught me everything I know about business, Mom, including how to recognise when someone's trying to screw me over. Mum wiped her eyes and looked around the table at our family, all of them staring at her with varying degrees of shock and disappointment. Fine, she said. You want to destroy me? Go ahead. But don't expect me to pretend we're still family after this. We stopped being family the day you changed those locks. Mum grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Come on, Camilla, let's go. But Camilla didn't move. She was staring at her phone, her face pale. Aunt Cynthia, we have a problem. What now? The revenue reports I filed with the state. The ones showing higher sales numbers to avoid penalties. What about them? Someone reported them as fraudulent. The state tax office wants to audit the store. Mum turned to look at me. You. I didn't report anything, but if your numbers don't match your actual sales, that's between you and the state. This is harassment. This is consequences. 3 days after the family dinner, I arrived at my store to find Mom standing outside hers, staring at a bright yellow notice taped to her door. Closed until further notice, by order of City Planning Department. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she was clutching a coffee cup with shaking hands. Satisfied? She called out when she saw me unlocking my door. I'm sorry it came to this. No, you're not. This is exactly what you wanted. I paused with my key in the lock. What I wanted was to be treated like a partner. What I got was betrayal. I gave you everything. You gave me lies. A small crowd was starting to gather, people on their way to work, curious about the drama unfolding between the two stores. Mum noticed the audience and raised her voice. Everyone should know what kind of daughter I raised. She destroyed her own mother's business out of spite. I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. I just stopped enabling your illegal business practices. Illegal? How dare you? The falsified revenue reports, Mum. The unpaid sales taxes, the zoning violations you ignored for months. That's not spite. That's consequences. Charlotte appeared from around the corner, walking toward us with purpose. Ladies, you're disturbing my other tenants. Charlotte, you have to do something about her, Mum pointed at me. She's harassing me, trying to steal my customers. Cynthia, your lease is terminated effective immediately. You have 48 hours to remove your belongings. Mum's coffee cup slipped from her hands and shattered on the sidewalk. What? You can't do that. Section 12 of your lease agreement, material breach of legal compliance requirements. The city violations void your tenancy. But I can fix those. I just need more time. You've had months to fix them. The time for extensions is over. I watched my mother crumble in real time. Her shoulders sagged, her face crumpled, and for a moment she looked like a lost child. This is all your fault, she whispered to me. You've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending your behaviour was acceptable. That evening, Cameron called with news. The press wants to do a story about your store. Local entrepreneur, overcoming family betrayal, building something from nothing. You interested? What kind of story? Human interest piece. David versus Goliath, but with vintage furniture and family drama. I don't want to trash my mother publicly. You don't have to. Just tell your story honestly. Let people draw their own conclusions. The reporter, Sarah, came by the next day. She was young, enthusiastic, and clearly fascinated by the whole situation. So, your mother kicked you out of the business you helped build? She decided she didn't need a partner anymore. And you responded by opening a competing store next door. I responded by starting my own business. The location was just convenient. Some people might call that revenge. Some people might call it justice. Sarah interviewed several customers, all of whom praised my store's quality and service. She also tried to interview Mum, but according to Eloise, Mum had refused to comment. The article ran 3 days later with the headline, "From Betrayal to Business, Local Woman Builds Success from Family Ashes." It was fair, focusing more on my entrepreneurial journey than on Mum's failures. But the comments section was brutal. People shared their own stories about Mum's questionable business practices going back years. That afternoon, Camilla showed up at my store. She looked exhausted and defeated. "Can we talk?" "Sure." She followed me to the back office, where I was processing inventory. "I need to tell you something about the revenue reports." "What about them?" "I didn't just file them, I created them. Made up numbers to make the store look more profitable than it was." I stopped typing and looked at her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the state auditor called me directly. They want me to testify about the discrepancies. And I can't lie under oath. I won't go to jail for your mother." "So what are you going to do?" "Tell the truth, all of it. How she planned to cut you out, how she used your credit without permission, how she made me falsify documents." "Camilla, that's going to destroy her." "She destroyed herself. I'm just trying to avoid getting dragged down with her." Camilla pulled out an envelope and set it on my desk. "These are copies of everything. The fake reports, the loan documents with your SSN, emails where she told me to inflate the numbers. Why give these to me?" "Because you deserve to know the full scope of what she did. And because..." She paused, looking genuinely remorseful. "Because I should have warned you from the beginning. I knew what she was planning, and I went along with it because it benefited me. You were protecting yourself. I was being selfish. There's a difference." After Camilla left, I sat in my office staring at the envelope. Inside was evidence of fraud, identity theft, and systematic deception. Enough to send Mom to prison if I wanted to press charges. My phone rang. Eloise. "Cora, Mum's packing up the store. She's crying and throwing things and saying she's leaving town." "Where is she going?" "I don't know. She won't tell me, but she keeps saying you've won, that you've destroyed her life." "Elle, I never wanted to destroy her life. I just wanted her to face consequences for her actions." "I know, but she can't see the difference." "Are you okay?" "I'm scared. She's talking about starting over somewhere else, and she wants me to come with her." "Do you want to go?" "No, but I don't know how to tell her that without making everything worse." I looked at the family photo on my desk, the one from the store's original opening day when we all believed we were building something together. "Elle, you don't have to choose between me and Mum, but you also don't have to enable her behaviour." "What do you mean?" "I mean you can love someone and still hold them accountable. You can support someone without participating in their lies. Is that what you're doing?" "I'm trying to." That night, I walked past Mom's empty storefront. Through the window, I could see boxes stacked everywhere, years of inventory reduced to cardboard containers. A handwritten sign in the window read, "Everything must go. Final sale." I stood there for a long time, looking at the space where we'd once worked side by side, where she'd promised me a future that never existed. Tomorrow, the press would run a follow-up story about the store's closure. The community would move on. New businesses would open and close. But tonight, I just stood there in the silence, mourning the mother I'd thought I had, and the partnership that had never been real. The morning Mum left town, I found a letter slipped under my store's door. "Cora, you got what you wanted. I hope it was worth destroying your family. Mum." I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash, then immediately pulled it back out and smoothed it flat. Evidence of her final attempt to make me the villain in her story. Eloise called an hour later. "She's gone. Took 2 suitcases in her car, left everything else behind. Are you okay?" "I think so. She asked me to come with her one last time. When I said no, she told me I was choosing you over her." "What did you say?" "I told her I was choosing honesty over lies. She didn't like that. The store felt different that day. Lighter somehow, like a weight I hadn't realised I was carrying had finally lifted. Customers noticed too. "You seem happier today," said Mrs. Peterson, browsing the jewellery display. "I feel like I can finally breathe." "Good for you, honey. That woman was poison." Around noon, Charlotte stopped by with a clipboard and a measuring tape. Mind if I take some measurements? I'm thinking about knocking out the wall between the two spaces. You want to expand my store? I want to offer you the option. Double your square footage, same rent as you're paying now. I looked through the window at the empty space next door, the place where I'd painted walls and installed fixtures and believed in promises that were never real. I'll think about it. Take your time, but Cora, you've built something special here. Don't let her legacy limit your future. That afternoon, Cameron arrived with a photographer and a bottle of champagne. What's this for? Celebration. The article about your store has been picked up by 3 regional papers and a business magazine. You're getting calls from investors interested in franchising your concept. Franchising? Multiple locations? Your brand, your curation style, your story wall concept. You could have stores in 5 cities within 2 years. I stared at him. That's not what I wanted. What did you want? I wanted to prove I could build something on my own. I wanted to show her that I didn't need her approval to succeed. And you did that. Now the question is, what do you want next? Before I could answer, the door chimed, and in walked Eugene, the city inspector. Miss Cora, I wanted to follow up on the violations at the neighbouring business. What about them? The case is closed. Multiple infractions, falsified documents, unpaid taxes. The business owner left town before we could complete the investigation. Will there be charges filed? That depends on whether anyone wants to press charges for the identity theft and fraud. He handed me a business card. If you decide you want to pursue it, call this number. You have up to 3 years to file. After he left, I stood in my store looking at the card. 3 years to decide whether to send my mother to prison. I walked over to the story wall where customers had been pinning notes about items they'd purchased. A woman had written about finding her grandmother's exact china pattern. A college student had left a note about the vintage desk that was helping him write his thesis. A young mother had pinned a photo of her daughter playing dress-up in a 1950s coat. At the bottom of the wall, someone had written, "This place saved my life. Thank you for creating something beautiful from something broken." I unpinned the note and read it again. Creating something beautiful from something broken. The door chimed again. Eloise walked in carrying a box. I brought you something. Inside the box were photo albums, documents and mementos from our family's history. Pictures of me as a kid, school awards, art projects I'd made. Mum left these behind. I thought you might want them. I flipped through one of the albums. Photos of birthday parties, Christmas mornings, family vacations. In every picture, Mum looked proud and happy. Like she genuinely loved being our mother. Do you think she ever really cared about us? I asked. I think she cared about the idea of us. The version of us that made her feel good about herself. That's what I said before. You were right. Eloise sat down in the vintage armchair I'd designated as the reading corner. I got accepted to the State University. Full scholarship. Elle, that's amazing. I'm going to study business law, contracts, partnerships, corporate ethics. Because of what happened with Mum? Because I never want to be that vulnerable again. And because I want to help other people avoid what happened to you. I hugged my sister, really hugged her, for the first time since this whole mess started. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too. You could have destroyed her completely, but you didn't. I thought about it. But you didn't do it. That's what matters. That evening, I stayed late to reorganise the inventory. The store was quiet, peaceful in a way it had never been when Mum's drama was looming next door. I found myself standing in front of the story wall again, reading the notes customers had left. Stories of connection, of finding exactly what they needed, of feeling understood in a world that often felt chaotic. Charlotte's words echoed in my mind. You didn't win a fight, you built your own table. I pulled out my phone and called Cameron. I've made a decision about the expansion. And I want to take the second space. Not for franchising, not for revenge, for community. What do you mean? I want to turn it into a workshop space. Teach people how to restore furniture, how to see value in broken things, how to create something beautiful from something discarded. That's actually brilliant. And Cameron, I want to call it the Elizabeth Workshop, after my aunt. I walked to the window and looked out at the empty storefront next door. Tomorrow I'd start building something new in the space where Mom had tried to build her empire of lies. I whispered to my reflection in the glass. She taught me everything she knew. I just learned the rest. But this time, the words didn't taste bitter. They tasted like freedom.